In a shadowed corner of the occult bookshop just off Washington Square, Ruth Bardsley fingered through the pages of the Dictionary of Astrology. The book was one of many on the same subject on the table at the rear of the shop. It was 9 in the evening of an April night, and the shop was deserted except for the proprietor and a young girl in a mini dress with Indian symbols crocheted on it. Her glistening black hair was parted in the middle and plaited and tied with bright ribbons. The girl was talking earnestly to the proprietor of the bookshop in a low voice, which Ruth couldn't overhear. He was a good-looking young man with a Buffalo Bill Cody style of long hair and flowing beard. Every now and then, he glanced somewhat suspiciously in Ruth's direction, as if he didn't quite know what to make of her visit to the shop. He couldn't place her, and she didn't seem the type, was Ruth's guess. She pretended not to notice the last of the grim glances given her by the flamboyant young men. She was 19, Titian-haired, and had a rather lovely oval face. Her eyes were large, deep blue, and luminous, and most people noticed them first. Her ready smile added to her charm. She had been attending Bryn Mawr, but that was before everything happened. Now she was alone in New York on a mission that had taken her deep into the hippie kingdoms of East and West Greenwich Village. She donned black stockings, a black mini-dress with the Eye of God, a diamond-shaped symbol sewed on its front, and found gaudy Gemini symbol earrings which she was wearing. Her tanned face was devoid of any makeup except bright cherry-red lipstick, which she literally slashed across her mouth for a bizarre gammon effect. She'd felt she'd managed very well to discard her square personality for that of a hip chick, but the disapproving looks she was receiving from the Buffalo Bill type in charge of the shop told her she hadn't managed too well. Ruth had rented a studio-like room in a loft building near St. Mark's Place and hoped to establish herself as a friendly newcomer. So far, she'd found the flower people less than open-handed in their welcome of her. She'd rounded up a fantastically talented, she thought, young black poet and his blonde ballet dancer girlfriend for several meals and evenings at her place. She liked the couple, but they still seemed wary of her, though they were ready enough to take any food or drink she had to offer. She'd hoped they would bring others to her studio, and in that way she'd get to meet a number of the hippies, but so far they'd not brought anyone. She had an idea they were reluctant to share her bounty with others, and that didn't fit in with her plan. Sighing, she went on studying the astrology book. Aquarius was the 11th sign, so it said, and Mary had been an Aquarius. Mary, her older sister by 19 months, whom she hadn't seen in more than 2 years. Mary, brunette and lovely, outgoing and always smiling, who'd vanished from Boston University one November day. Mary, who had always confided in her about everything, but who had suddenly turned secretive and aloof. Where was the older sister she'd respected and loved now? Her eyes fixed on the book again. Aquarius was represented by a symbol pictured as waves of water on electricity. The sign indicated service to mankind. She recalled that Mary had been very upset about the state of the world during the last months she'd seen her. Mary had taken part in parades against the war in Vietnam and had been active in the civil rights movement. She'd scoffed the Consumers' Society, of which her businessman father was a leading pillar. The account of Aquarians stated they were loyal, clever, and affectionate. All qualities Mary had possessed. She was lost in the description of her sister's sign, and so did not hear the Buffalo Bill type in blue jeans and fringed suede jacket as he came up to stand staring at her with coldly questioning eyes. "Find what you were looking for?" he asked in an even, rather cultured voice. Ruth glanced up from the book, somewhat flustered. "Not really." "You've been here before?" "No, I haven't," she said, thinking it was ridiculous she should feel guilty about this admission and wishing he wouldn't stare at her with those piercing brown eyes so oddly. "You're new in the village." "Yes." It was so obvious to anyone like him there was no use in doing anything but admit the truth. He looked slightly derisive.